Chapter 4, Analysis of Financial Statements. How do we analyze financial statements? Well, we are going to use financial ratios, and we are going to extract the information from our firm's financial statements. So that's why in Chapter 3, we spent so much time going over the various financial statements. So the information that from those statements will be used to analyze the firm's condition and performance. And we'll do that by using ratios, by calculating financial. Why are ratios useful? Well, ratios standardize numbers and help to facilitate comparisons. Our ratios are going to be used to highlight the weaknesses and the strengths in a particular firm. But what's important to realize is that ratios, one ratio alone, or perhaps the ratios for one firm for one accounting period, are meaningless. Ratios are only meaningful in comparison. So there's different types of comparisons that we can undertake. For instance, a cross-sectional analysis is when we compare one firm to, let's say, an industry average. And there are firms out there that provide this service where they calculate industry averages for the various ratios. Or we could compare one firm to another. However, those firms should be in the same industry. Why is that important? It has been shown through research that the ratios of various firms within an industry tend to cluster together. And that does make sense because they face the same opportunities, challenges, operating situations. So a cross-sectional analysis is when we compare a firm's ratios to an industry average or perhaps to another firm in the same industry. A trend analysis is when we compare a firm to itself over time. So we may take one firm and calculate its ratios annually for maybe a 5 or 10-year period and discern, is there a trend going on within that firm? And finally, a combination comparison is one where we combine cross-sectional analysis and trend analysis. There are 5 major categories of ratios that we will study. The first is liquidity, and these ratios answer whether or not the firm can meet its short-term obligations as they become due. In other words, can they make their required payments? Category 2 is asset management. Based on a firm's assets, is it producing the right amount of sales? Debt management is going to answer the question whether or not the firm has the right mix of debt and equity, and can they honor their debt obligations. Profitability obviously has to do with comparing a firm's revenue versus its expenses. And based on that, its profits, are they high enough based on the expenses that the firm has incurred? And finally, market value ratios are more of an investor confidence measure. The higher the market value ratios, the more confidence investors have in the long-term prognosis of that firm. So we'll be able to calculate various ratios in these different categories using our firm De Leon. So here we have balance sheets for 2019 as well as a forecast for 2020. In Chapter 3, we also have the 2018 figures for its balance as well as its income statements. There's some extra data as well, the number of shares outstanding for this firm, earnings per share, dividends per share, stock price, and lease payments. So we're going to use this information to calculate all the various ratios.